So welcome to the new episode of Building the Open Web. Today we have a special episode. Today we have actually two people joining me here. One is Matt from Niera. Do you want to maybe introduce yourself, Matt?
Hi, Matt Lockyer, Matt D. Lockyer on Twitter. Last name is Lockyer, if you need help spelling that. Very passionate sort of crypto blockchain person and joined Near 6 months ago to work on sort of the developer ecosystem, the wallet, the account system, and anything I can learn and get my hands on. And very excited to be here with Thibauld.
And we also have Thibauld today. Do you want to maybe give a little bit of background on yourself as well?
Yeah, sure. Thibauld Favre. So Thibauld on Twitter, Thibauld on GitHub, Thibauld everywhere. So Thibauld. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Fairmint, and so that's I'm also the author of the continuous organization white paper, and excited to talk about all this today.
Cool, awesome. And how did you get into crypto? Maybe for both of you, I actually would be curious for Matt as well.
Sure. I actually went out for pizza with some guy on January 2nd, 2017, and he said he was putting together an incubator for a bunch of frontier technology, and he said blockchain, and I said, what? And so that started me down the rabbit hole, and a lot of the ideas that were sort of popping up, it was during the ICO craze, but a lot of the ideas and the sort of ethos that was kind of coming out of that really resonated with me. And I think really, kind of like the rest is history. By the time I had gone to ETH Waterloo, the first ETH Global event on October 2017, that was my fate was kind of sealed. So.
Yeah, on my end, so before doing all of this, I had a startup which it was the first app store for PC, so app store for Windows, and so I had obviously a first-hand view on all the software that was being released, and I remember installing the Bitcoin client. It was in 2011, but I also remember I stared at it for 10 minutes. It was synchronizing. I had absolutely no idea what it was doing, and so I quickly uninstalled it. And I came back to it in 2013, bought my first Bitcoins, but then lost all of them in Mt. Gox in the hack of 2014. And then I got very pissed with crypto, so did not look back at it. I only came back to it in 2015 because I was doing I was running a nonprofit to crowdsource the best candidate for the French presidential election. And so for that, we created an open primary, and there was a voting module on Ethereum. And so I came back as I was pissed with Bitcoin. I came back through Ethereum in 2015, 2016, and then never left ever since.
Nice. And maybe we can also start with the kind of background of this conversation, because this episode is a bit started in a very interesting way. So we've essentially had this quick discussion on Twitter. So what was your point of view, Thibauld, when you mentioned the comment?
So this comment, I think one of the things that I thought was interesting with Near, I've heard about Near since I guess it was a year now, and a discussion with the founders, and they say, well, one of the things that is good with Near is that you get rewarded if you do smart contracts that are being used. You actually get paid because a part of the miner fee goes to reward the smart contract developer. And all this time, so I was looking at Near and I was looking at your communication, and I was like, this is never ever mentioned. And so at some point I said maybe they removed it. This was an idea that they removed. And so I went on the website and I said, no, it's still here. And this is why I tweeted at you guys and say, hey, I think this is a big deal because this is a new idea. This is actually cool. And you should communicate more around this. And then you retweeted it with the Near account. And I think, it triggered a conversation. So it was a cool idea that I thought would deserve more knowledge and more awareness.
So a quick follow-up question to that. I'm really curious, are there any sort of parallels to this concept in the Ethereum world or any sort of EIPs? I mean, we know there's sort of subscription standards and things like that. Do you have any other projects that sort of kind of that this sort of fee from usage of smart contracts it sort of reminds you of in the Ethereum world?
Honestly, not really, not really. And that's a good question. The thing is that right now the common assumption is that whatever, if you impose a fee on Ethereum, as it's not like in the protocol, it's going to be like somebody's going to fork it and remove the fee. So it's just the default behavior is not to charge fee at the smart contract level, because it's best case scenario you're successful, but then you're forked away and the fee is going to be removed. So this is why, like, this is not a thing, and it cannot be a thing because it's not in protocol. So I saw like the conversation triggered a lot of comments and people saying, well, this is bad. Some loved it. Some say, well, this is bad. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how it's going to play out, right? I guess the main comments like that I was reading from people is like, there's going to be a competition. So if one smart contract has like a minor fee, and then like the developer would be incentivized to basically pay back the fee to the user to lower the usage of this contract as much as possible, which would mean like like this reward fee. I don't know how you call it in the near environment. How do you call like the developer fee? Like the developer fee is going to be basically paid back to the user, and so the thing is, there's a lot of speculation, and it might not be, because there's also this thing. Oh, they said 30%. Why 30%? Why not more? Why not less? I think it just brings a new thing on the table, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out, like what people are going to do with it. And yeah, I'm more excited by people exploring the space of what it opens as opportunities, rather than having the conservative approach and saying, okay, like theoretically it's bad because it could do something like this. So I think it just opens up a new like design space for developers.
And specifically about this sort of fee discussion and sort of like of course it's all theoretical to think like how this is going to play out, but really specifically there was another comment that I saw about contract inefficiencies. And some people were sort of theorizing, hey, it's going to make developers write really inefficient contracts in a way to capture fees even. Do you think that would happen, or do you feel as though like I feel as though it's the same as forking? Like somebody would just make a different version of it that had lower fees, or it was more efficient.
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, it creates such an incentive, but you can also say, well, the thing is, uh, even if people are doing this, yeah, like somebody else going to come. In the end, it's all about the end user experience, right? So is the end user experience great? And so I guess, unless like the contract gets its value because it's expensive and not optimized and spends a lot of fees, I completely see somebody else coming along and creating a contract that is more efficient. And because the war is going to be about user experience. And so if you provide a better user experience with a lower, like more optimized smart contract, you're going to steal and draw users to your smart contract. So, and this is the thing. I think also there's some, if it's a bad idea, because maybe let's say it's a bad idea, and we see that, I don't know, like it brings up spam and things like this. Like nothing is set in stone. So the protocol can evolve, and like there's ways to improve it. What I like is that I think it's a bold idea. It's a bold idea to try this, and yes, maybe you don't nail it the first time, but we'll see what kind of monsters are going to be created with that, and probably there's going to be some great ideas, and that will trigger new ideas to how to improve this developer fee, or and also how to reduce, like if it creates spam or thing like this on the chain, like there's going to be also improvements to like remove this spam. I'm curious to see like and maybe also we're just running into a very small cup of water, because like from what I've seen, like also the Neo blockchain has lower fees, a lot of lower fees. So if you get 30% of very low fees already, so the question is like, how much can it really generate to the developer, right? Like, are we talking like cents? Are we talking dollars? Like thousands of dollars? Could you make, like, what would it require in terms of transactions so that an open source community or developer alone could make a living off of it? I don't know. I didn't run the calculations, but maybe it's a lot, and all we're talking right now is not gonna matter.
Yeah, it reminds me of so yeah. First of all, like I think we kind of like internally think that it would require a lot of usage in order to be able to add up to something meaningful. But we'll see how it's gonna play out. We definitely don't think that it's gonna be like the main way people will be able to earn a living by creating contracts that are widely used. But it's also kind of like reminded me of what I saw in a world from the outside of crypto. I remember talking when New Year just started. We were talking to the guy who started Homebrew, and so he at the time had millions of people using his service. Like, it's open source tool, right? That everybody almost, if they have Mac, uses it. And so he had a Patreon page. And at the time when I was looking at this and I was talking to him, he had 100 people paying him $6 a month. And that just kind of blew my mind, because like he has on one hand like millions of users. On the other hand, at the time his wife like forced him to find a job, a full-time job, and so he like wanted to continue to work on this full-time, but then he was getting paid like way less than he was able to like earn a living for his family. So yeah, it's very much I would say just like very much open-ended, you know.
If you create a public good that is widely used, yeah, I agree. Like a public good that would be widely used, even if it would be like micro cent that you would do at every transaction, like this could add up and make something meaningful.
So I think that's a great time to maybe go back and introduce continuous orgs, and we'll get some background on that, and then we'd kind of love to hear what you're up to now with Fairmint, maybe towards the end. But I think if we start talking about continuous orgs, we'll have a lot of stuff to talk about. So do you want to kind of take us back to the original paper?
Yes, totally. So basically, Fairmint became, because like so after this like open source primary, I became a partner at a firm, and I was in charge of crypto educations to VC public officials, and also they had a portfolio of entrepreneurs, and this was during the ICO craze, and unfortunately for all the entrepreneurs, I refused. Everybody who was applying was shilling their token, were like crazy, saying, "Hey, look, you're gonna be rich, and who wants to be an advisor and all," and I was like, I don't see long-term value in this. And so I basically refused all the projects, like, and on the basis, like, it was like, look, I have only one reputation, and so that's my asset in life. And so I'm not going to burn it just because you're going to give me some tokens that I think have no long-term value. And so, but this sparked a very interesting discussions with and debate, because you could see all these entrepreneurs wanting to raise funds in a different way, right? And so that was an interesting data point. The model was not good, but like there was a willingness from people to raise differently, and there was a willingness from entrepreneurs to build a community with like incentivized financial incentive with the whole community to build something together and share the upside of the success of the project. And so I started like really thinking about this, and my first love in crypto was like TCRs. And in the TCR model, like token curated registries, there's a component that is the bonding curve, which was introduced by Simon de la Rouvière. And so, and soon enough, I ditched the TCR part just to focus on the bonding curve. And I thought that that's a crypto primitive that is extremely interesting, and we could probably reinvent how capital formation is being done using this. And while I was thinking about this, I met with my co-founder. So my co-founder doesn't come from a crypto background. Like, he's a pure like entrepreneur, and he was thinking at this time like to create a startup exchange, like focusing on the SPVs of the startup to bring liquidity to investors in the SPVs of startups. So SPVs are these like special purpose vehicles that are used to syndicate investment into a startup. And basically like we really got along together very well because like we wanted to solve the same problem with different angles. And so while we were discussing, this is when I started like writing down, because at the beginning the idea that I had about like this continuous organization model, I thought it was stupid. Like I thought, no, it couldn't work, like because it's so different, it just cannot work. And so I started like talking to friends and say, hey, like tell me why this doesn't work. And more people were like, yeah, no, like they couldn't come with a compelling argument on why it couldn't work. So then I was like, okay, so now I need to write this down. And maybe while I write this down, I will find the problem. I will find why it doesn't work. And the thing is, I wrote it down, and it seemed to click, and it seems to be okay. And so then I published it, and actually it's very, yeah, like today is the day I published the continuous organization white paper, like 2 years ago.
Wow, 2 years ago to this day, you published the white paper. Oh, and how many people in crypto Twitter did you reach?
That's a good question. I don't know. But yeah, if I reach like a couple of thousand, I think it was kind of the world of crypto back then. No, and we met actually, Matt. We met because I this is when I flew to East San Francisco, and because the idea was like I gathered a few friends and like, hey, like do you want to hack on creating the first version of it? And so we were at East San Francisco in October 2018 to hack a first version of the smart contract, and yeah, so that was the beginning of it. And then with Joris, we just like, that was a piece of research. That was like, oh, that is good. That would be an ideal to reach like this continuous organization. And so then we are like, okay, how do we take this piece of research and transform it on something that people would understand, like beyond like pure crypto people, and not only understand, but also like want to use. And so we started like just interviewing tons of people, like entrepreneurs. We interviewed like a lot of stakeholders. Like every time I would take an Uber, I would ask like interview the Uber driver about his experience, like his relationship with Uber, what he wish, what is, and investors. And clearly there was something like the data points that we got was like founders want more control over their project. They want like long-term being able to develop their vision to the fullest. And so that means like being in control of the company over the long term. Stakeholders really wanted access. So access to the upside. So they don't necessarily want to govern. Like in crypto right now, it's like governance is all the rage. But my opinionated view on this is like nobody wants to vote. If you want to vote, that means that you need to get knowledgeable about the thing that you want to vote on. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time and effort. A lot of people, they just want ownership. They just want like, okay, let me invest a few bucks and get access to the upside of this product that I love and use. And so really access was key for stakeholders, and investors wanted liquidity. Like this was very clear, and ICO proved this, right? Like a lot of investors who usually would ask for governance rights, if they were provided with like short-term or mid-term liquidity, they would be okay. Like I don't need governance rights. Governance rights are only here today in the startup world because they are giving you a lot of money, and they want, as the money is illiquid, they want to make sure that you don't mess up with the money. If they could walk away and just sell their shares tomorrow, like there would be a lot less governance involved. And so like liquidity, access, and control was the pillars of Fairmint on which we built Fairmint. And so with Joris, we really created Fairmint at that moment when we had a clear vision. And this is when like we raised like a pre-seed. So we didn't raise with our own product because it was not ready, but we raised to build it. And yeah, and so there was an iteration in like the model, because first we went with the exactly what was described in the white paper, meaning like we will enable companies to basically securitize their future revenues. And we thought that it turned out that it's still a complicated model. Like it was very novel, but like we could convince founders, but founders were like, it's, if I took time to understand it, like how would investor react? And so this is when we said, okay, like we went a bit too far in the novelty, and so let's take a step back and just use what everybody knows, which is equity. Everybody knows how equity works, and so this is where we said, like, let's take the best of what we've built, which is like, okay, continuous fundraising, like you can raise funds on a rolling basis, but instead of basing it on some like revenue type collateral, let's base it on equity. And this is how we created the cafe. So the continuous agreement for future equity, which is like an improvement over the safe. And yeah, and since we announced it, like it's been like things have really blown off.
Interesting. How did you evolve also since that ETH San Francisco? So since this initial meeting, like what was happening with Fairmint since then, like leading up to now?
So the first thing is that we had one of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted to build a security, right? Because there's a lot of projects in crypto where people try to say, okay, we're going to create a token that will give some upside of the project to people, but it's not a security. And everybody, like the game for a while in crypto was like to say, no, like this is not a security and here's why. And trying to find workaround around securities law to, and the thing is, we didn't take that path. We're like, okay, we want a token that clearly shares the upside of the project with people. When you say this, that means that you're building a security. So what we focus instead is like, how do we build a security that provides a user experience that is 10x better than the current securities experience? And so this is why, like, one of the big things that we had to do is obviously crack the legal, right? Because when you say this, that means that you're securities, so you have to apply and to comply with securities laws. And so that means that we spend a lot of time to navigate the US securities laws and to know what was possible to do, what was not possible. And at the same time, we were building the product. And so we released like the first version of Fairmint, we released it in April, this April. And since then, yeah, now we're like expert. I think honestly, in the US market, in crypto, I think we're the most expert people in US securities law. I could become a lawyer now. I could pass the bar.
Damn. And when did you launch Fairmint?
So we launched in April, really like open for business in April. And what the great thing that we did is that we launched our own continuous offering. So we're eating our own dog food, and this is, man, like this is really great. And I don't know if I'm gonna find the words to convey this, but the fact of having this ability to fundraise on a rolling basis and anybody being able to invest directly on your website without you being involved is game changer. Like this is the future. Like it's some mornings I wake up and I'm like, oh, somebody invested $20,000 last night, and I was not even involved. Like somebody who loved what we are doing, loved the vision, like just went and clicked that invest now button, and by himself he was able to invest. And that frictionless experience comes because like the price. This is where the bonding curve is being used. There's no negotiation on price. Unlike usually when you do a safe, there's a price negotiation with, oh, what's the valuation cap, what's the discount, and no, and that. Here's like Mr. Market is providing you with a price at any single time. Do you take it or you don't take it? And you can invest at any single moment. So maybe like right now you don't want to take it because maybe you think like the risk reward is not good. So you can wait. But if you wait and other people invest, then the price is going to rise up. So maybe you don't want to invest now, you want to invest in 6 months. But what I love is that it completely reverses like the negotiation power between you and the investor. When you do a round right now, like when you do a classic traditional fundraising, like investors have the upper hand, right? Because you have to make them sign and all of them at one point, like, and this is a round and you do it or you don't do it. It's very binary. Here's like, you know what? You want to invest? There's absolutely no problem. Go on my website and you can invest tomorrow and or not. But there's no negotiation. It doesn't matter if you call me. It doesn't matter if you know me. You just go. The process is the same for everyone. And yeah, we had like a funny enough anecdote. We had a customer meeting like this week, and while we were demoing the product, somebody invested like $16,000 at the moment we were demoing, and like our prospect was like, does it mean like just right now somebody invested $16,000? And yeah, like anybody can invest at any single time, and it takes a time to process, right? Like you're not involved, nobody called me, I was not with the lawyers, yet somebody was able to invest in our company. It's just like it feels miraculous.
So my question is, there are proposed changes coming to the accredited investor rules. I guess the question is, does Fairmint in and of itself, being this new method of sort of continuous investment in private companies, does it lend itself to a wider audience by default? Are there any sort of other like sort of ways you can kind of widen the base of investors, or is it the same as it was before, and you will have to wait for the new rules?
So, like, it's a very good question, and it's a question we get asked a lot. Like, can non-accredited U.S. investors participate? For example, that's a very recurring question. And what I want to say here is like, so we are not magician with the law. Like, we're not congressmen. We're not. So we don't make the law. So we abide by the rules of the U.S. securities law. Yet there are stuff like when you push this like these rules, you realize that there's a lot of ways that non-accredited investors can participate. And so, for example, first, it depends on the exemption that you're going to use, right? Because there's a lot of ways to do an offering, and we're completely agnostic on the exemption you're going to use. If you're a startup and you want something like quick and cheap, like you can do a Reg D 5060 type of exemption. So that means in that case, it's the same type of offering like you do a traditional fundraising today. That means that it's reserved to accredited investors. But the thing is, after a year, so people who buy the securities, they have a 1 year lockup. And after a year, you can spawn off a secondary market. And on the secondary market, non-accredited investors can actually come and purchase your security, right? So this is not well known, but if you do a Reg D exemption, like the only thing that cannot happen is non-accredited investors investing in your company, but they can still purchase the security on the secondary market. And so if you enable this, that means that non-accredited investors can actually get a hold on your securities. Another thing, and this is what we push a lot at Fairmint, there's basically three ways to get securities from a company. You can invest in the company, you can purchase the security of the company in the secondary market, or you can earn equity, right? And so the earning part is also super interesting because to earn equity, you don't need at all to be accredited investors. You can be a non-accredited investors. The only thing you need to do is you need to provide work for the company, like bona fide work for the company. And in this case, like the company is able to reward you with equity. And so with Fairmint, we're basically this platform that enables you to enable all of those three things, like let people who want to invest, let people who want to purchase, and people who want to earn. And that is extremely powerful. And if, not talking again on the legal, if you're a bigger company, you can straight from the get-go have non-accredited investors invest. If you go with another exemption, for example, a Reg A plus exemption, then you can have non-accredited investors invest from the get-go. But basically, there's a lot of ways that you can have non-accredited investors invest while respecting the current U.S. securities laws.
Right.
And I did not even mention Reg. I did not even mention Reg CF. Like Reg CF, obviously, it can be used also. Like we're agnostic to all these exemptions.
That's great. That's really a nice sort of kind of overview of the landscape. So earlier in the call, you mentioned that you have a co-founder who comes from not the crypto and blockchain space, but more from a traditional entrepreneurial background. How did you two meet, and what is like? I guess like I'm not even sure. Him, her, they. What is their sort of impression of your background, the crypto blockchain space?
So so Joris is really like the self-made man, entrepreneur, like extremely good in operations. And yes, he did not have a crypto background, but he has an extremely astute vision, right, on what the future is going to be like. And so when we met the first time, this is an anecdote, when I had my company, we exchanged. So he had his company. He's also a multiple entrepreneur. He sold his company actually in 2016. And so we exchanged over email because at some point I made a post saying how hard it was to be an entrepreneur. And so he related to the story I told. And so he contacted me and said, "Hey, buddy, yeah, I feel you. This is shit." And so we started exchanging like this, right? And then after some point, so we lost track of each other because I moved to the US, and it's actually a common friend of ours, Solomon Hikes, who is the founder of Docker. And when he got heard about what I was doing, and when he got heard of what Joyce was doing, then he said, "Hey guys, you're trying to solve the same problem, so you should meet." And this is when we realized that we already knew each other. And so, but again, like we're fathers. Like I have two children, he has two children. So before meeting together and forming a company together, we went like a week just to align on what we wanted to do with Fairmint, what was the vision. And when we were like convinced that, okay, like what we want to do is actually decentralize access to wealth, like by enabling a lot of people around the world to get access to wealth building financial products, this is when we decided to go together. And yeah, his vision is very simple. He doesn't care about tech. He doesn't care about crypto. He just wants something that makes the life of entrepreneurs better. And that's our approach at Fairmint. This is why we don't use MetaMask. Like when you use Fairmint, like we used to say, like we're a fintech that has legs in crypto. So we're like a cryptech. So that because if you're an end user, you don't see that there's crypto behind. Like it's a Web2 type of experience. And that's the way it should be. Like nobody should know there's crypto behind. But at the same time, we use the DeFi stack. Like we use crypto because it's such a better stack to build upon. And if you're building a new type of financial services today. And so this is why like we're very, very happy because we have end users who don't realize we're based on crypto and who can enjoy the full benefits of crypto without having to go with the hurdles. And at the same time, we can leverage this entire universe of financial services that is being built on top of crypto.
One quick note. I don't want to like sidetrack ourselves, but one quick note. It seems like that you're focusing quite a bit on usability, on like end user and UX. Like, can you maybe elaborate a little bit on that? Like, how do you think about it?
So yeah, my thinking about it is like before my company, I had a B2C company, right? So when you do a B2C company, like you look at your conversion rates at every single, like whenever you have a flow, like a scenario for end users, you look at every single detail, like what can derail the user, what's make users drop, right? And you're like, okay, I had 100 users and now I only have 95, and here, oh geez, I have only 60. So what happens here? The problem in crypto is that if you say to your user, you need to use MetaMask, like here's how the funnel looks like. You have 100 users and then you have 2. So that's the drop, right? And so and so that's the problem. So unless you're building a crypto for crypto product, and I love MetaMask, I'm a big fan of it, but you have to realize that for mainstream users, that's a huge hurdle, and one that they will not want to overcome. Like you cannot overcome this with education. It will take years and years. Like the only way would be like if tomorrow Chrome or Firefox were to embed a wallet, right, in their web browser, like something that would be seamless. Like as long as this does not happen, I don't see mainstream users going and installing a Chrome extension that is called MetaMask, and MetaMask like scares a lot of people, just the name, right? Why would I install MetaMask? Like, and this is, I think this is a war. Like, and Near also has the same thing, right? Like, and this is why what I like is that there are companies, and here I'm gonna shameless plug. I'm not an investor, but I love Magic, right? Magic Link, this company who is providing users with a non-custodial wallet just with a single email. And I know they support Near as well. And for me, this is the future. This is the future. This is the kind of user experience you want to have to bring crypto mainstream, and nothing less than this, right? So if you ask your user to install something else to use your product, you have a big problem, and you cannot be a B2C type of play.
Technologically, Thibauld, how have you solved this at Fairmint? What is the UX and what is sort of what's under the hood there?
So first, like, technically there's a lot of things, but first we try to nail like the design, because you know everything about bonding curves. And the problem with bonding curves is that you say the word, right? Say the word bonding curve to a normal user, is going to run as fast as he can, like to run away from you, right? Because it's just scary. And so the first thing we try to do is we try to say, is there a way to present a bonding curve to a normal user without scaring him off? And the short answer is no. Like we were not able to do that. So this is why we had to remove completely the bonding curve concept from our communication, from Fairmint. And this is why right now, like if you go on a Fairmint, you just see a graph. Like you just see a graph with like time, and here's how the price evolves. So first we nailed this, right? Instead of just the concept that you give to the user. And then technologically, as you said, so the beauty about crypto and about issuing securities is that crypto enables us to do that without being licensed, right? This is the beauty of it. It's like if we were to build on the banking stack, the traditional finance stack, we would have to spend millions to get a custodian license, to get a money transmitter license, to get a broker dealer license. here, Fairmint, we have none of this, and we are enabling our customers to issue securities, and that's because we use non-custodial wallets. And so non-custodial wallets, it was a big headache until companies like Magic came along, right? Magic solved this problem, so we're very happy with that. And so that's one thing. And then the other problem that crypto had was this volatility problem, right? Like, oh, if you use ETH as a base currency, like nobody knows what ETH is, and they don't want to have to suffer the volatility of this asset. So then stablecoin came, and that become like pivotal. Like this is absolutely awesome. It looks simple, but just like when you use Fairmint, we even work with the lawyer to remove the C from USDC so that, well, you fund your account with fiat and then you get USD in your account. Okay, it's tokenized USD in the background, but it's still USD. Nobody knows about it. You don't have to know that it's tokenized. And so I guess having an easy access to non-custodial wallet that are permanent was a big deal. Stable coins to remove the exposure to the volatility of the underlying asset was a big deal. And then what else? Yeah, then like smart contracts, but smart contract, exactly. Like as long as you don't have pop-ups everywhere saying, do you approve this? Do you approve that? And you can just have like a seamless investment flow. Like on Fairmint, our goal was to be like users should be able to invest in 3 clicks and less than a minute. And so I think we achieved this. But yeah, like this is a battle. Like, and I think this is the battle. UX at all costs. This is what will bring users.
That's great. That's great to hear. Sasha, do you have any other questions? I think we are getting close to the end of the hour here.
Yeah, maybe like a little bit last piece here we can do is to discuss DAOs and overall like future org structures and how it will evolve. Like how do you think overall, like going forward, your particular space will evolve actually?
So one thing I'm excited about is that I'm excited about like seeing this new type of organization coming to life. Like the thing that will not happen, I think, that's my point of view, is like traditional organization which are rooted in the legal system becoming DAOs. I think what I'm excited to see coming is like this totally native organization, like crypto native organization, that just enable users like what happened with Wi-Fi, right? Like, was it a one-off? Will it exist again? But like this type of organization that just come out of nowhere and just self-organize and are able to create a lot of value for people and enable people to coordinate among each other. I still think it's like day zero. Like you like to say that near, like it's day zero, but it's like really day zero in terms of like the governance mechanism that we see today. And so there's still a lot of things to invent, but I think this is what crypto is going to bring to the world in the coming years. It's like a novel way for people to assemble and work together and get rewarded together without having to incorporate anything. So even though it theoretically exists today, it's not practical enough to do anything. Like there are some example like DXDAO. DXDAO is doing pretty well on that aspect, but still, like there's a lot of room for improvement. And I think the thing with this type of organization is that I don't think Ethereum is going to be the chain for that. I may be wrong, but the thing is, I see Ethereum really being like the DeFi chain and really to have like these financial transactions. And I think this is the opportunity for other chains like Near, for example, like because as soon as you have you need a lot of transaction, you need seamless, you need speed. Then I guess the battle is open. Like, will it be an L2 on top of Ethereum? But if you're going to use an L2, you could as well go on another chain, right? As long as there's a bridge with Ethereum. And so I think this is like the next frontier, where the next frontier is like, who's going to be the chain that is the home for this new type of organization? And this is why I like also the fees in the contract, right? The developer fees, because being able to bring like a natural revenue for this type of organization, I think would be pretty neat. So yeah, I guess that's it. And the thing is, what Fairmint wants to be positioned is like, okay, if you want to create this type of completely natural decentralized organization, well, like there's this way. If you want to bring that type of being able to let anyone participate in the future success of your organization, then you can use Fairmint. And Fairmint helps you really like run your continuous offering, manage your continuous offering, and enable you to give every like your key stakeholders access to your future upside. And a little bit like GitHub. I like to have the analogy with GitHub. GitHub, you're doing open source, it's completely free. Go for it. If you're doing like bad commercial software and plan on doing like closed source software, then you charge. Fairmint is going to be, I would love Fairmint to become this. Like, I would love to have Fairmint be completely free if you do a completely native decentralized organization, and then being a paid service if you do something for your current legal entity. So that's the way I would love Fairmint to evolve.
That seems that's great. That's a great summary. That also seems like a pretty logical place to stop. Sasha, did you want to ask any sort of outro questions from either of us?
Yeah, I'll be curious overall for Thibauld, like what's a good place for your potential customer to, where do you want people to land? Is it the paper, or is it the product, or something entirely different?
So the paper now, I can hang it on top of my chimney, but it doesn't reflect what we do today. So it's a nice collector to have. No, you should go to fairmint.co. And on fairmint.co, you can see like basically if you're an entrepreneur today, if you're launching your startup and you want a way to build with your community, reward your community, and raise funds on a rolling basis, just give me a nudge, and like you can go on fairmint.co, learn more about how we do, and let's change capitalism. Our goal is to make stakeholder capitalism a thing, right? And to transition from a shareholder centric capitalism to a stakeholder capitalism. If that rings a bell with you, like go to fairmint.co and contact us, get in touch.
And my last question for both of you is, how, on near side, how can we actually improve, given that we need to make this particular economic piece front and center, and given that you are doing a lot of things in your company related to kind of removing cognitive load from people, how do we actually improve on our end with making sure that everybody knows?
So I think you're already doing a good job by targeting the right people to bring into the ecosystem. Like having stablecoin and having non-custodial wallet that are easy to use is just like the key. Like so if you have these two pieces, you've already done an awesome job. Then obviously right now everything financially related happens on Ethereum. So having a very like seamless as possible bridge to Ethereum is key. And you also like because I look at all the chains and all, and you're very well positioned on that aspect, that you have a very nice bridge to the Ethereum ecosystem. So honestly, I think you're doing all the right things. The question is like, what I'm curious is like, every chain is going to have its own type of community with its own set of values. And what I'm really eager to see is like, what's the near community is going to look like, right? So if you look at Bitcoin, you have like this very, at least the ones that are outspoken on Twitter, but it's like this very like right wing libertarian type of community, right? And like meat eater, gun holder. Okay, like the Ethereum is like completely different. Like the Ethereum is like socialist communities. Like, hey, like we're here to improve the world, do good, and help people like have access to wealth and share. Yeah, like much more, a lot more socialist in the philosophy, right? And so I'm eager to see, and I think this is the big like thing that you need to work on, like what's going to be your community like, right? Right now, from what I'm seeing right now, like the early premise is like Near is going to be like super like developer friendly. Like you have great documentation. I tried the tutorial and everything was very easy. And so if you can become like the de facto go-to chain for anybody who wants to create a decentralized product, I think that's very compelling. I don't know if you're going to be able to be the DeFi chain. I don't think so. I think that's just settled. I think it's going to be Ethereum if they don't mess up, right? Because like there's still a big risk. Like on my what could go awfully wrong is like the migration from ETH1 to ETH2. this is why I think ETH1 is going to be a fork. And when I said this last year, I got hanged on Twitter because I'm saying like it's going to fork. Like people will want to stay on ETH1. And so I know that the developers are trying to make that not happen by forcing ETH1 to become part of ETH2. But that's still, on business perspective, that's still a big risk, right? That's the black swan event. Like what if that happens? But if they manage this transition, I think, like it's going to be hard to remove DeFi from Ethereum. But there's so many use cases. Like this organization of the future use case is still like completely up in the air for anyone to grab. And I guess if you're the most developer friendly chain, like a cool thing is going to happen for sure. And so yeah, like.
It's funny. Yeah. It's funny you talked about culture though, because, I swear this morning I was thinking about Near's culture. I've been spending a lot of time in our Discord. You can find me in there as well. And they're starting to become this really lively community now. So we just had staking released. So everyone's chatting about all manner of things. And I was thinking about Near's community, and I thought about Ethereum, and I thought, well, okay, here's a community of really smart people where I learned a ton from, not just about, programming and sort of decentralization, but just about economics and all sorts of stuff. I kind of fell into this other world, and I backfilled a whole bunch of information that I had been lacking about finance and all sorts of things. And it's a bunch of these really smart people holding unicorns, and basically being very lovely and very open. I actually spoke to Dmitry Buterin about this, Vitalik's father, and I said, what made it like this? And he said, we just don't want it to be like Bitcoin because we lived in that world and we just didn't like it. And then so then I was thinking about Near, and I thought, okay, there is this chatter happening, like very. It's very logical, very rational. People are on Discord searching for answers, and I sort of feel like we do have a lot of really bright and intelligent people in our core, and we have great and bright, intelligent people in our community now starting to ask questions. So this is great. The ecosystem's developing, but there is sort of a dotted line where the unicorn should be, and I'm just kind of wondering, what's that gonna? I know we have our Near cats and stuff, but I'm just sort of wondering, like, what's the rest of that piece? The unicorn piece, is it more of a socialism piece? Are we sort of like the chess club of blockchains because, Alex Skidanoff does the whiteboard series? I just don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be interesting to see how it develops. And I'm really excited to kind of be a part of it.
Yeah, no. My thing is like as near as VC backed, it's going to be tough to compete on like the values of Ethereum. But for me, like as an outsider, I don't know Near very well, right? But as an outsider, like Near is like technical excellence, right? Like since it's been founded, it's like okay, like it's like top notch engineer from Google, and so it it reminds me a little bit of Stellar, meaning like Stellar had this positioning. It completely lost it, right? The Stellar lost its way, but Stellar was like into like developer experience. They had like great docs. They had like and the easiest chain to approach was Stellar. And so now I think it's not on the radar anymore, but I think Near has like this technical excellence, and I think like using this and not turning into an arrogant chain, because there are chains, I won't give names, but they are arrogant and they try to throw money at people to make them build on top of that, on top of their chain. And I think that's a failing strategy. And if you do that, you're going to fail. And so, like right now, honestly, I love the way you guys have navigated the space, and I'm really looking forward to see how it's going to evolve.
Well, thank you. It was really amazing conversation today. Thank you for coming to Building the Open Web.
Thank you guys. Like always a pleasure.
Thank you.